The best piece of advice I have for someone trying to succeed in the film industry or any creative space is if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're doing it wrong.
Welcome to Around the Craft Table, a podcast by film students about movies, making movies, and other stuff.
Hey, Brett, what you doing?
Eddie, I'm about to stuff a bunch of wieners in my mouth for the contest next week. Motherfuckers!
Hey, Brett. How's it going?
Oh, just fucking peachy. I got fired.
You got fired?
They wrote me out of the show. Apparently some crazy religious parent group called Stop Homosexuals in Television think Eddie and I are gay, and that it's a bad example for their children. Can you believe that, Charlie?
That's crazy.
I know. And that bitch of an agent, Cassandra, didn't even try to fight for me.
Well, maybe you should take life by the horns and do something about it.
You're right. I'm gonna go give those damn executives a piece of my mind.
Well, it's not exactly what I...
You're driving. I can't see over the wheel.
Hey everybody, it's Miranda, and what you've just heard is a clip from the film Fun Fun Street, made by Carter Hadlow and Jared Adams. The pair comprise Kaiju Productions and Adams Pictures, and they join me tonight, along with Myles, for episode 9 of Around the Craft Table. Welcome, guys. How's everyone doing?
Hey, doing well.
Oh, great.
Good.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, no worries. So, Myles has all the questions prepared, so I'm going to hand it over to Myles for a bit, and then we'll have some, casual conversations about movies. Take it away, Myles.
Yeah, sure. Let's start with, some bios for the two of you, whoever wants to go first. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Jared. I'm a local filmmaker, mainly do, cinematography. I also work as a professional editor. Yeah, I don't know, I kind of got into this whole film thing maybe 5 years ago or so, and just kind of exploded from there and started doing a whole bunch of shit, and yeah, I don't know.
Sweet. Carter?
Yeah, I'm Carter Hadlow. I'm I guess you'd say an indie filmmaker who's trying to start his own production company, Kaiju Productions. We do small videos, short films, music wedding videos. We just shot our first feature film last year as well. Just getting what we can to get started in our career, basically.
That's awesome.
What sparked you guys to start making films? What was sort of that moment whenever, as a kid or whenever it happened, what was the moment that made you go, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to make movies.
I'd just like to say that, growing up, I just loved watching movies, when all my friends would rather be going out playing sports, I guess. I was never really a huge sports person. I just loved watching films and, growing up, watching I guess the first movie I ever watched was Jurassic Park, and it's always kind of stuck with me, and I loved that movie so much. And growing up, like I said, watching science fiction movies like that have always sparked my interest, and then I just realized as soon as high school hit me, I was like, you know what, I really want to be a part of that someday.
For me, it all kind of started, when I was really young. I remember watching, renting from Blockbuster, the behind the scenes for Indiana Jones and Star Wars and stuff, and watching those, VHS tapes over and over, and thinking how cool it was to make movies. And I kind of did a bit of it when I was younger, and then sort of discovered music and did that for a long time. Still doing that, but then kind of just got back into it 5 years ago or so. I was kind of at a point where I was working shitty jobs and not really getting anywhere as a musician. I was kind of you know what, there seems to be money in the music or in the film industry, so why not do it for the money? So it's all about the money.
Fair enough.
Yeah. What do you guys tend to, on set when you guys are working in the industry, what kind of roles do you tend to gravitate towards?
I often I work as a camera trainee or second AC depending on the movie, with IOTC 669. So that's kind of the direction I'm going. I guess along the road to becoming a cinematographer, it kind of makes sense to get experience working on set in the camera department. But I haven't done like too much of that lately. That was more of a couple of years ago I got into that and sort of trying to do all my own independent stuff now because working as a trainee is tedious work.
Yeah, awesome. For you, Carter?
If I'm on set for like bigger production that's on Winnipeg, I've normally done grips or special effects on set. Like, but if it's like for our own stuff, it's mainly just getting really into directing / producing, the occasional editing here and there. But my main focus, and with my film partner Taryn Padua, we're both moving towards strictly getting into producing someday.
Wow, great. That's awesome.
So what sort of, as we get into the film that brings us here this evening, we'll dive more into this, but what sort of sparked the two of you working together?
Well, Jared and I, we helped each other out a lot during university, during our film shoots, and we've constantly borrowed each other's film equipment, which probably didn't hurt. And
I think I still have your tripod and slider.
You do? That's right. Completely forgot about that.
The truth comes out.
Again, we've done a lot of projects together that, it's I feel like we kind of made a deal that we would make sure that definitely in the future one would get compensated for helping each other out type of situation. Again, going with Fun Street, I brought the idea up to Jared how maybe we should do something about making fun of the whole Sesame Street thing where parents were losing their minds over certain characters, and the ideas, we kind of bounced a lot of ideas off each other too, which seems to work out in our favor.
Sweet. So why don't we move right into Fun Street then? And whichever one of you wants to take the lead on this, just start with telling us a little bit about what the film is about, and sort of begin with how it came to be. And I should just note before we go into this that this as well screened at IOU Video Fest, just like the previous interview we did last week with the Folks Films team.
Yeah, sure. So like Carter kind of mentioned already, Fun Street's based on the idea a couple years ago where there was this whole rumor that Sesame Street was going to kill either Bert or Ernie because there's like some sort of advocate parent group that thought that they were gay and there's a bad example for their children. I think that's almost like paraphrased exactly from what our short film says. Basically, we kind of ran out that idea as like, what would happen if that actually happened? And like, what if these puppets were actually like real people? How would they react to that? So I think it kind of came from that, as well as sort of just the idea of sort of seeing puppets that were just like cursing and swearing and fighting and drinking and, doing all these things that you never really see puppets do in movies other than like maybe Jeff Dunham or whatever that TV show is. Is it Jeff Dunham? Or is it somebody else?
Well, there's also another it's a Canadian show called Puppets Who Kill.
Oh, that's one I'm thinking of. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it was kind of the idea was to go do something like that and just go really extreme with it, and kind of, at the end it's sort of this massacre where one puppet kills the other and just, tons of blood and everything. And so the idea kind of just came from that, and we sort of wrote the script that kind of was basically like a revenge plot sort of thing. And then we did it for the 48-hour film contest because it was pretty simple to do. It wasn't a terribly complex story, so.
Oh, for sure. And Miranda and I have seen it, and we both, I like it quite a lot. I think it's really funny. Puppets, I have a soft spot personally for puppets, so it was like right inside my wheelhouse as an audience member. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I really love Fun Street, and I actually didn't know that was going on with Sesame Street, so that's really funny that you guys used that for the film.
Yeah, I think it was more of like a rumor. Like it never actually happened, but there's like this big sort of like news stories and stuff about it. But
well, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like a real thing, though.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're also taking the idea from how they did change the Cookie Monster to the Vegetable Monster.
Oh yeah, that's
and
true.
like Oscar, I think like Oscar the Grouch was living in like a recycling bin for a bit too, or something.
Yeah, just to make them. I think they took out the title
to make it more PC.
Yeah, which it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, and that's what we wanted to make fun of basically through this short we did.
There's a lot of stuff in the world right now that's like trying to compensate for things that we've done in the past, but I feel like they're kind of you shouldn't really touch them anymore. Like just keep it the same. No one actually thinks you're promoting waste by having him live in a garbage bin.
They're trying to rewrite history. That's the problem. And
Exactly. They're trying to cause it.
it's like the Mandela effect. It's like you look at something, you're like, wait, what?
That was actually kind of one of the other ideas I had for our 48-hour film contest last year. I was thinking like do some sort of Mandela effect thing.
It's so crazy. Like the Monopoly guy with the monocle. He had a monocle, I swear to God.
We all thought he had one.
It was hanging out with the Berenstein Bears, yeah.
We didn't think he had a monocle. He had a monocle.
I read a quote from, I believe it was Bert's Puppeteer, around the subject matter. He was asked about it in an interview, and he, like, are Bert and Ernie gay? And he just basically was like, they're Muppets. They can't be gay because they don't exist below the waist. Like,
yeah, I think Kermit's like the only one that has legs, and maybe Big Bird.
yeah, well, Big Bird. Would you really consider Big Bird a Muppet just because it's just a guy in a suit, basically?
oh, 100% he's a Muppet.
He's totally a Muppet. Yeah.
All right, just wanted to make sure, clarify.
It's like Muppets are puppets, but not all puppets are Muppets.
Exactly.
Fuck it, he's a puppet.
Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Precisely. So I guess we can move on to my next question. It sort of touches on a little bit on what we discussed with Fun Street. What stories are the two of you most interested in telling as filmmakers? Are there genres or themes that you both like to hit when you're telling stories?
Honestly, it's really up in the air. Like, you know, for our films, it's never been one specific genre. Like for mine, at least, I've never been really one specific genre. We're kind of like I kind of like the idea of just trying to tackle any type of genre, any type of subject matter, really. Possibly like a lot of issues, especially with a lot of issues that are going around today, type of thing. Because God, we have so many happening right now, as well. But right now, like for Fun Street, that was the first time I've ever tried really tackling a comedy, but like let's just say, for instance, for this year, I would like to try maybe doing doing a horror just to change it up a bit. So it's not really set on one thing. I kind of like to try doing multiple things.
Sure. How did you find the comedy?
Honestly, the idea, it was like the hardest thing about that short was the Muppet work, basically, because we've never done it before. But I thought it was, because normally I always thought that doing comedy was hard, but, you know, I really enjoyed filming this short, and the more I enjoyed it, the easier I felt it became to do.
Yeah, I think when you have the right actors, it
can
work pretty well.
Fair enough.
And I think like Lauren and Tyson like really were able to play off each other pretty well, and it worked out.
Yeah, I think so too. And Jared, what about you? What kind of stories are you interested in?
I like films that I have to think when I'm watching them. You know, I mean, sometimes it's okay to like kind of just turn off your mind and watch a Marvel movie or something. But like, personally, I like movies where I have to think and kind of sort of figure out what's going on. Like one that I watched recently that stands out for me is Mother, the Darren Aronofsky film, and that one's just like it's all metaphors and it's really weird, and I like stuff like that. So I've dabbled in some of that, but it's never been great. So I think I kind of want to go in that direction. But I mean, I don't really do much directing, so it's one of those things where if I do actually direct a film one day, it'll be sort of something that's been building up for years. It won't just be like, oh, let's go direct this thing. So I think,
yeah, it'll be like a passion project of yours.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, I'm kind of just fine doing cinematography, and I like shooting stuff. But you know, I like shooting kind of a bit of everything. Like, you know, I'll shoot comedies, I'll shoot like whatever sort of dramas or weird experimental crap. But yeah, I don't know. I guess if I do go anywhere, it'll be in the territory of like surreal thriller.
Cool. Do you guys, again, this is open to either, and whoever wants to go first, go ahead. Do you guys have particular stylistic approaches? I guess, Jared, more for you when you're shooting, and Carter, more for you when you're writing and directing. Do you have sort of stylistic approaches that you try and go for visually and thematically?
I usually like to go for I guess like kind of a more classic approach to cinematography sometimes. It's really hard when you're kind of like somewhat limited by gear and equipment, when you kind of, if you don't have all the fancy like rigs and jibs and all that crap, you can't really do too many crazy camera movements. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of handheld stuff. I've recently sort of started to appreciate a bit more of it in certain context. But personally, I'd rather put the camera on a tripod or some sort of dolly track or I'd rather the movement.
Any equipment, really, basically. Yeah, I was never really a huge fan myself as well when it came to the handheld. Like, it only really works if it's kind of like a documentary or mockumentary.
Yeah, there was a
style.
scene in Grief we meant to shoot handheld, and I totally forgot about that, and we
Sure.
didn't. But whatever.
What, like through Fun Street?
No, in Grief, we were gonna shoot the scene where they break into Owen's house was supposed to be all handheld, and we
Honestly, it
forgot
worked
to
out.
do that.
Honestly,
Yeah, it worked out just fine. Yeah.
Honestly, like, I actually thought the scene looked great, so...
Well, there you go. Happy accidents, right?
Yeah, I guess so, exactly. But yeah, for me, stylistically, I kind of like to go for I like camera movements to be smoother and more methodical and planned out, and not really not so much like, documentary style or reality where the camera just like whips around everywhere. And
Yeah.
I like to plan my stuff. Like, I've heard a lot of like filmmakers and stuff talk about like, oh man, this film, like, we shot it and then it looked totally different than what I thought it was going to be. And for me, I've always like, my favorite part is like when I actually finish editing, I'm like, this looks exactly like I saw in my head before I even started
Same
shooting.
here, yeah.
Because like I sit down and I plan out every shot. And I know how every shot's going to connect. And I know exactly how it's all going to look. And then when you put it together, it's like, from conception to like death or whatever, life, birth, whatever point a film is done.
It's never done. It's just out.
Well, exactly. It ends up looking usually exactly like I thought it would. So, I mean, that's kind of, I like to be more methodical and really plan everything out and make sure I know that it's going to work perfectly.
Yeah, and what about you, Carter, in terms of like when you're directing, are there certain sort of techniques and things that you like to employ?
Like, I like to take for instance, going back to Grief, our feature that we shot, I did take like a little inspiration from like old neo, like not old old movies, but like neo-noir films type of thing, because we kind of wanted to kind of give it the idea that it was like basically it is a thriller what we're doing with, but at the same time I kind of like to I know this is going to sound weird, but I really like planning as you go almost, like going with a plan, but like when you're on set and you see what the set's like, I love like seeing how we could do things differently from what we originally had, type of thing. And as well, when it comes to writing, it's same thing. Like what I'll do is when I'm writing a script, let's just say, for again, like going on with Grief, we spent almost half a year writing and literally just using our memory from like when we were in high school. Megs Ortiz, my co-writer, just used our ideas from the past, really. But yeah, that's really all I can really say is like I love finding inspiration on the go.
Do you find positives or negatives to that approach, to the idea of Jared? Do you find it? Are there positives to being so locked in and prepared and knowing exactly what you want, and are there negatives? Do you find, or?
I mean, yeah, obviously the positives are the fact that you get what you're looking for, and you know what you want. But the negatives can be kind of like Carter was saying, when you actually get to the set sometimes and you see what it looks like, and suddenly you're like, holy shit, I have this better idea. If you sometimes if you gotta let go of your original plan and try something different, because it's like, you see the set and you realize, okay, like maybe that dolly out shot wasn't what we need. Maybe it needs to be like a camera that kind of pans around with someone and then pushes in or whatever, because you see the set and it's kind of different than what you thought it was going to be, or the action plays out differently. So, I mean, the disadvantage of it is if you stick too much to your original plan, you sometimes can miss out on a really cool shot or something. So you still have to be a bit flexible when you actually...
Carter, what about you? Positives and negatives to your methods.
My methods, well, positives again. You never know what you could see when you arrive. Think like going again what Jared said. Like You know, those moments where you arrive and you're like, oh my goodness, like this could be so much better than what we originally had. But then, you know, there were times on Grief where there's a couple times we tried doing that, and then we realized, you know, we should just stick with the original plan, which we would do, but it would just be annoying because then it was a lot of time wasted doing a shot that didn't end up working.
Did we have too many of those?
There was a couple, you know, especially in the high school scenes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's some stuff there, wasn't there?
The forest scene, and that was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just really it. Like, you know, you never know. It could just fall right at your, fall back right on your face, thinking like, and completely backfire on what you were wanting to do.
Fair enough. I think that's happened to all of us as filmmakers here at some point. On that note, I'm going to hand it over to Miranda, who's going to take us into break.
Yeah, for sure. So, just to go off the realm of films for a second, Jared, you're in a band, Color by Numbers.
I am, yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about it, and then we are going to play one of your tracks for our break music, which is really exciting. We've never done this before.
Yeah, so Color by Numbers is my the band I play in. We're like a rock band inspired by 90s alternative and stuff, kind of like Sloan or Weezer. And I think the song you're going to hear is Thaddeus, which is a song we just released, and we recorded a video for it at the Goodwill back in February. And I edited the video, so that's the video came out, I think, just 2 weeks ago or so. What's the date today? The 16th? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I guess this will probably air later than that, but...
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for letting us use it for the break, and we hope that all of our listeners enjoy it, and then we will be right back after the break.
Thaddeus walked along Higgins Avenue, looking for a place to drink. As he passed under the Disraeli freeway, he stopped in his tracks. He took a moment to think. Thaddeus wasn't the world's most smooth-talking guy. When he went in for a kiss, he settled for a high five. Thaddeus had a mission to tell all the other musicians he was in a band and he'd be down to jam. Thaddeus shrugged off what happened last night. The band was tight, but the chicks weren't free. Art isn't the easiest subject to talk about. Thaddeus majored in history. Thaddeus wasn't the world's most smooth-talking guy. When he went in for a kiss, he settled for a high five. Thaddeus had a mission to tell all the other musicians he was in a band and he'd be down to jam. He played a 3-chord song, said try to follow along. Thaddeus thought about buying a car one day. Winnipeg Transit ain't that great. Finally, he found his way into a bar. He pulled out a 10 and asked for a PBR. Thaddeus wasn't the world's most smooth-talking guy. When he went in for a kiss, he settled for a high five. Thaddeus had a mission, tell all the other musicians he was in a band and he'd be down to jam. He said, I play the bass, I'm a fucking ace.
All right. Welcome back to Around the Craft Table, episode 9. How is everybody? We just took a break. We had some water, had some nice chats, had some dinner. Yep. And now we're back, and Myles is going to lead a conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about a feature film that you guys worked on last summer together with a lot of other people as well. So Myles, what are the burning questions?
I guess well, I'd like to do a little bit of what we call a postmortem discussion, and that's sort of, if you guys are interested, take us through each, however briefly you want, take us through each stage of the project, starting with like development. So I guess my first question is, Carter, since you, as you mentioned earlier, you wrote or co-wrote the thing, where did you start with the idea and the writing process and how that all began?
Like I said earlier, we spent a good half a year just writing. My co-writer Megs and I, who we met at when I was working at Ben Moss Jewelers. She was kind of she was kind of going in the direction of trying to maybe getting into the industry herself. And I asked her if she would like to help co-write Grief with me, just because for me, when I'm writing, I always love having a co-writer, to bounce ideas off of, and that's I find I work best when I'm working with someone. But again, like I said, we spent months writing. We took ideas from our past during high school, because we both had experiences with bullies. The main villain in the movie is the high school bully, who's inspired by two bullies actually that I went to high school with, and literally all I can really say is that they had hearts. They had basically both had hearts made out of ice, and we thought, let's try combining these two into one individual. And a couple other events, especially in the film, the opening sequence in the movie was actually inspired by an event that happened to me when the friends are rushing to aid their friend who's in trouble. It kind of happened to me once. I don't really want to get into much detail on that, but then we had, after writing was done, we had a friend of ours, everyone knows Tyson Wagner, who loved the script so much, was offering to help produce the movie by throwing in a couple of grand into helping make it, but he said he has to be one of the main leads, and so we made that agreement. And then pre-production occurred. We spent a good chunk trying to find locations, which was probably the hardest part. I felt was making this movie was getting all the locations locked. Yeah, well, it's funny, like, the one school we had was actually my old high school that, at first tells us, yeah, we can use the school, and then, as it's getting closer, I had to email them wondering where was the paperwork, and they tell us that, oh, sorry, you can't use it anymore.
That must have sucked. Let's use that then to segue, I guess, into the principal photography stage of the shoot, and talk about that and the pitfalls you faced and some of the successes beyond obviously finishing the film. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Sure. So like the successes and pitfalls we had. I guess, for the most part, we were pretty successful in terms of being able to get all the shots we wanted and whatnot on the day. There was, obviously the occasional time where you're going to have to, sacrifice some shots and whatnot just for time constraints or reconfigure your shot list. But I think for the most part, it went off pretty successfully, at least from my side, the technical aspect of it. There's always things you're fighting with. Like for me, one of the hardest days of shooting, I think, was, other than the day that I was incredibly hungover, but that's another story. What I was getting to is one of the sort of toughest days, not necessarily laborious, more so just in terms of a technical aspect of it, was the stuff we shot in the school gym. Because in terms of lighting it, I was fighting with these incredibly awful overhead lights that were all green and different colors and flickering, and we didn't have a ton for lighting, so I couldn't just kill the entire gym lights and put our own lights in. That wasn't really an option, so I had to sort of work with them and figure out what was the best way. And I think in the end, it's looking pretty good. I think it actually turned out better than I thought it was going to. So that was probably one of the harder days, at least from a technical standpoint. And there's a lot of stuff we shot outside in the dark too that was complex, and some of the longer scenes, just making sure that everything's gonna work together. Like especially the climatic scene. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a very long scene. It's a significant portion of the movie, and there's a lot of shots and a lot going on, and just making sure that all of that tied together. And in the end, it did. That scene, there's a little bit near the beginning, there was kind of, a bit of interesting editing to try to make it all look seamless, but then it actually did work out pretty well in the end.
For either of you, this is a two-part question. Is there a moment that you're most proud of in terms of the production portion of the process? And is there a moment that you really wish could have been, you'd like a do-over?
Well, for me in general, I'll say that the fact that we were able to make our first feature film with our own budget, that was a feat in itself, basically, I felt. That was really proud of the fact that we were able to finish it, and when it comes to thinking of what I wish we could change, well, there was it would be most likely maybe just certain locations I wish we had, we would have found almost better ones, I guess you could say, like something that would have worked better or looked better, but again, you get almost what you pay for, right?
Sure.
But other than that, I guess what I was really most proud of was the fact that I didn't end off having a nervous breakdown.
Well, there you go. That's a win.
Given the week before the first day, everything was going on my mind of how possibility of most likely Murphy's Law was going to happen, how everything everything that could happen was going to end up happening, and on the first day of filming, my assistant director and my production manager were MIA, and I had to do both their jobs while directing. And at the end of the shoot, I was driving home and had to pull over because I ended up having a panic attack because of how crazy it was, how crazy that day was, because I was doing more than just one job. But then after that, everything was like, okay, I think I can handle anything. I'm pretty sure I can take in anything I can now. Jared, was there anything on your end you wanted to bring up in that type of case?
There's one shot. There's a really good shot of one of the lead actresses where we basically start on a wide shot of her, and it's this 2-minute scene, and we just slowly creep in until it's in an extreme close-up by the end of the shot. And I thought that one was, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work on everyone's behalf, because not only is it a complex shot, because first of all, I'm pulling my own focus and moving the dolly, and I'm playing 3 roles at once, or when I should be just doing one. But
and then she had to cry on.
Yeah, and she had a really hard part because she had this performance to nail, and I think the shot where she actually nailed the performance, unfortunately, wasn't the best take camera wise, but the take was still it still worked. It's not like it was bad. It was still a good take. It was just not the best camera take, but because her performance is there, it still sells the shot, so it doesn't matter, because she actually finally nailed it after I think 12 takes. And it's not that it's hard. It is hard. It's not an easy thing to cry on camera and give that much emotion for 2 minutes straight. So that was probably the shot, I guess, to say I was most proud of. Yeah, there wasn't any we didn't have too many insanely complex shots in the movie that were
No, we wrote it in a way where we tried making it as less complicated as
I think basically when we were planning the shot list, it was kind of to the extent of, we know what gear we have, we know we're going to be limited by technically, and we knew the best way to accomplish the movie was to not try to go beyond our means. So, even though we probably could have done a lot of the really cool stuff if we had a jib or a gimbal or something crazy, we just stuck with what we had, what we knew. And I think because the acting is there for it sells that, even though the camera movements aren't it's no David Fincher or anything. But when he does, though, it's always like, like super precise movements, and it's yeah, you're right. Yeah, he doesn't. We actually, okay, going on the subject of David Fincher. Okay, here's maybe one thing I am kind of proud of. We have this shot in the movie where Tyson kicks down a door. Tyson, by the way, is the lead actor in the movie. He kicks down a door, and we had 2 different takes. So in one take, he kicks down the door and it looks really cool. And then the other actress who's behind him in the shot, she doesn't quite get as far into the frame as I wanted her to for that one. But then there's another take when Tyson kicks the door, and he kind of does this feeble little kick because obviously we weren't kicking down a real door. But the actress, Melissa, actually got into a better spot in the frame on that one. So what we've done is we've kind of composited those 2 together because it's a locked off shot. So we have the take where Tyson does the good kick, and then I've comped in Melissa into the corner, so she's actually in a spot that looks better. So it's kind of like one of those David Fincher things where he takes like, one take from one actor and the other take from another actor, but comps them together in one shot.
Oh, the old split screen. I love it.
Yeah, it's not even split screen. It's kind of more like she's in the corner of the screen.
Well, that's still splitting the screen, just a corner of it.
But it was one of those things where it wasn't even planned. Like, we just kind of did that afterwards because we realized, oh shit, this would work better if she was here and not like kind of just hovering on the edge of the frame.
Yeah, everyone's always like aiming to do like a feature at some point. Well, at least the vast majority. Having done it, did you guys walk away with any major lessons? Like, if you were to say, like, this is the one thing that I swear by now, what would that one thing be?
Oh, absolutely. Going into it, like, again, we were so used to doing short films, and, normally we would go out after doing a short film, we'd be like, okay, that was, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was definitely, like, something we were used to, but doing this feature film, it hit me like a ton of bricks, basically, when I realized, okay, next time we do next feature we need to, for me personally, I need a better plan, like scheduling, because I probably made one of the worst film schedules known to man.
4-hour breaks in the middle of the day are not a good idea.
Because again, we're so used to doing that for short films, but for feature films, that's a completely different situation. Definitely, again, giving us more breathing room for finding locations, finding like props, basically anything we can to help make the movie better. And making it easier for ourselves as well, and yeah, like, again, like, it hasn't discouraged me from, like, it was hard, it was tough, it took a lot out of me, I will say it, but it didn't discourage me from, it would never discourage me from doing it again, because the idea is to get up into that level where we're producing features, because it's like, I don't want to just do shorts, I want to get into feature films.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as that. The real key is just planning. Like, plan everything, make sure you know your locations, make sure your schedules make sense, plan whatever set deck you're going to have, plan your shot list, plan your props, like, plan your outfits, like, just prepare as much as you can before the actual production begins. Like, do as much pre-production as you can, because it's so key to making sure your film goes smoothly.
We talked about planning, and I guess this is where I can sort of jump in and express my direct involvement. I was a second / occasional first assistant director. How much of the plan that you had done, and I know this might seem like an obvious answer, but how much of the plan that you did you stick to, and how much positive deviation, that is to say, how many moments in the movie were you forced by whatever circumstances to break from the plan and discover that the new plan worked out better?
I think we stuck, like, at least schedule wise and location wise and whatnot, I think we were pretty much like on point for everything we'd planned in terms of when we were going to shoot stuff. There's a few things I remember, like, picking up shots here and there, but that's kind of, that's going to happen on every movie where you shoot a scene and you realize, oh shit, we didn't get this shot, so you pick it up somewhere else, and you just kind of, like, there's a shot where a character grabs something off a shelf really high up, and at the location we didn't shoot that shot, and so we had to like fake it at one of the other locations of just a close up of a hand grabbing this item on a shelf.
Yep.
But there's always stuff like that. But I think we stuck pretty close to our plan. I mean, like I said before about shot list, obviously that stuff can change on the day, but for the most part, on the bigger picture,
totally,
it was all spot on.
Well, like we said earlier, like all the high school scenes, that like what we called Hell Week, just because that was that was gonna be basically the hardest scenes to shoot were the high school scenes.
Just as an aside, the reason it's called Hell Week was because on the first day Carter got decaf coffee for everyone.
Okay, so let's just remember we called it Hell Week even before that. So
Carter, I don't even drink decaf. I don't even think I was there that day, and I was upset.
Well, you know what? I'm upset too because I just started working at Starbucks, and there's a decaf espresso.
Now you're the quintessential indie filmmaker. You work at Starbucks and make indie films.
You've done it, Carter. You've reached the pinnacle. Congratulations.
That's it. This is the pinnacle of your career.
Again, don't get me wrong, every other day it did have its ups and downs, but the fact that we were able to finish all those school scenes in a week was probably I feel like that was a huge success for us to even accomplish, almost, just because we, our big story was, okay, we have this huge time restraint because, the guy that's letting us in the school, like the custodian, he has to be out at a certain time, and, and also too, I think our biggest issue was getting the amount of extras for the high schools. All the school shots too were probably the most worrying for us because we wanted to make sure the shots look good with having at least some, making it look like it's an active high school, but finding extras who would be willing to do it for volunteer was definitely the hardest thing about that.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a few times like we redressed people and put them behind a character on one side, then we flip the angle, we put those people on the other side again, but just in different outfits. I think that happened a couple
times.
times.
You scared them.
There's also that time I scared them. They were all talking really loud, and I said, "Everyone, shut up! I'm trying to talk to the director."
Yeah, and the next day,
it was kind of empowering. I actually kind of enjoyed that moment, to be honest.
However briefly you guys want to, let's talk about the post-production process and sort of how you were able to bring all of what you shot and all of the struggles that you guys had finding locations and all of that into the finished film.
Well, right now we're still in post-production, I will say, but we started post-production in October. Actually, no, that's a lie. We kind of started in November. Unfortunately, it was the worst timing ever because I had a relative of mine passed away, so I had to have Tyson come over and edit when I was out and about trying to grieve and not drink myself to death. But we spent a good 2 months editing best we could. Then Jared took a look at it. He helped shave off some stuff that was unnecessary, and
it always helps to have that like fresh set of eyes come in and sort of be like, okay, let's see what you got here. Okay, this doesn't really make sense or whatever. And oftentimes, you change things and you change them back.
Yeah, in my mind at the time, it made sense. But then when he told me, it was just like, okay, no, it does. Your idea makes more sense than mine.
And I think the other thing that helped, especially when you have someone who like me who like I shot it and then. Because in my head, I saw how these shots connected, so then it kind of helped, at least with some of the continuity of the cutting, to sort of, I was able to kind of look at the shots and be like, okay, I see what you're going for here, but we kind of need to put this shot in here so we can connect the motion of the actors or whatever, and it sort of helps to make the flow of the scenes a little bit.
Totally. I do have, I guess, as we wrap this thing up, I do have one last question for you guys, and you both kind of answered it already, but if you want to stick to it, you can, but if you want to give a different answer, totally go ahead. For the 16-year-old kid who's listening to this, like, at home somewhere, who wants to get into movies, but has no idea where to start, what's the one piece of advice you'd give him or her?
For me, it would definitely make connections, make as much connections as you could. Like, I will say going to university was probably the best thing about going to university is that I made so many connections with it, and because of that, I'm working with all these great people, and I see big things happening in the future because of that, and as well, take this. You're gonna have to take this. It's a hard world to get into, but you kind of just if it's your passion, you should stick with it.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It's all about like meeting people and making connections. Like I knew when I went to university, I solely went for the fact of meeting like-minded people and at the time being able to have access to equipment that I didn't have. Like I knew going into it that a film degree was like only as good as the paper it was on, and it's not really worth anything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because honestly, all of the work I've gotten after university has never been because of my degree. It's been because of people I know. So, and of course, it's what you know too. Like obviously, you need to learn stuff. You need to know stuff. But realistically, if you meet the right bunch of people who are willing to sort of work with you and help you learn and all that, so it's all you got to kind of just meet people. So like doing things like the 48-hour film contest, or the One Take Super 8, all these things that like Film Group offer or other whatever groups offer, like doing things like that is really a good way to meet people and sort of get working on small independent short films and whatnot.
As we head out, do you guys want to plug your social media accounts or plug any upcoming projects that are going to be out soon?
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to be doing that. Like, for instance, the 7 worst customers you'll meet in retail has hit over 120,000 views on YouTube.
Wow, that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we decided, and it's funny because we even said, like, we didn't even try. We just did this for fun because, we've been working in retail for so long. We just hate it so much. But we decided, we should probably make more kind of thing, like, since we got all these views, our subscribers are starting to grow now because of that. Let's try aiming to get that, that 1,000 subscriber base. So we decided we're going to continue making more videos called kind of almost like a web series called The 7 Worst. Each episode's kind of a different scenario. Like the next one we're planning on filming is The 7 Worst Features in a Manager, because I had a manager that had all 7 features in them. And then the next one, which was actually Jared gave me the idea for, is The 7 Worst Houses to deliver food to.
My 3 days as a pizza delivery driver.
Would I be able to make one last shout out for a project we're working on?
Totally.
So what we're trying to do is, it's still in the works, still in like pre-production, but we're actually doing a motion graphic animated series right now, a neo-noir thriller. It's going to be like kind of like a comic book, but it's a motion, so I guess you would say it's animation. The series itself is going to be called The Fallen's Gathering. The first season is going to be labeled as Purdue, kind of a French word for means deadly warrior type of thing. So I thought, if people are interested, that will be ready in a year or so.
Do you guys have social media you wanna promote in here, or websites or anything?
Well, we do have an Instagram account at kaiju.productions. We also have a Twitter account at Kaiju Productions, YouTube channel as well. Need more subscribers. We need to hit that base. But yeah, just if you really want to get to our channel, just literally type in 7 worst customers you meet in retail, and it's actually the first one you'll see.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at WJAdams. I don't post anything. Follow me. It's great. It's a great time. Colored by Numbers on Instagram, CBN Music on Facebook and Twitter. We don't use Twitter either, but follow us on there as well.
Do you have a website?
Coloredbynumbers.ca.
Sweet. We'll put all that in the show notes.
Yeah, you can find me at vimeo.com/Miranda Moroz, or on Instagram at Miranda Moroz as well. What about you, Myles?
You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Finkelstein, YouTube at Angry Chair Pictures, and The Collective Film Productions. Same at Vimeo, The Collective Film Productions.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast with us today. It was great having you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And you can find us at ATCT Show.
Yeah, all over social media. And we're now on GooglePlay Music, which is really exciting. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will see you all next week. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, it's Miranda from the Around the Craft Table team, and you've just heard episode 9, Kicking Down Fake Doors. This week's episode was executive produced and directed by Myles A. Taylor. It was executive produced and edited by myself, Miranda Moroz. It featured Myles, myself, Jared Adams, and Carter Hadlow as guests. The intro and outro music was done by DJ Quads this week, and our intermission music was Thaddeus from the band Color by Numbers. We hope you enjoyed the episode this week and hope you stick around for next week, where we're sitting down to immerse ourselves in more conversations about filmmaking. We're pretty excited for you all to hear these conversations we had and hope to spark some new conversations about filmmaking within your own circle of friends, collaborators, or just in the comments section. We have a special announcement for you all, as we're now accepting film suggestions for indie films to feature in our Shot for Shot segment, where we do an in-depth analysis of short films. Send us a comment if you have a favorite short film you'd like to hear us talk about on the podcast. You can find the podcast on SoundCloud, GooglePlay Music, or you can enter our RSS feed into your podcast app if you're choosing. Connect with us on social media at ATCT Show, or just send us an email at crafttablepodcast@gmail.com if you have any important questions or requests. We'd love to hear from you.